Welcome back to the next video in our 3D Racer game series. In this one we want to build out a car selection screen. So I went to my scenes folder, and the way we currently have it set up is we go from scene 00, which is our main menu, to scene 1, which is track select. And then you can choose between track 01, which is the second in our array, and then track 03, which is the fourth one, but the track 02, which is the fourth in our array, so it's number 3. So I want to put a scene in between here, which is a little unfortunate, right? I have to sort of change the way that my scene manager is working, but we're going to add a new scene in this folder, which will be for car selection. So we'll go from main menu to car selection to track select, and then open up the track, and then we'll have that car waiting for us there. So I'm going to go ahead and add a plus symbol here and add it in a new scene. And I'll go ahead and for now just call it 01 underscore car select and return that. And just for the sake of us having this all done properly, I'm going to go ahead and rename this to 02 track selection to reload that scene. Control rename. So 03 from a track 1, and then control rename 04. Save that. So this should still work properly. Let me go look at that scene manager script really quick and make sure that these are set up the way we want them to. I can't remember if we did them based on name or not. Sorry, I should have had this open already. Oh, so yeah, we're using the array values here. So we might have to change these. So track select now will be 02, 03, and then 04. Just wanted to make sure that was the case. And I'm actually not going to hold the method in here for this to go to the car select screen. I'm going to build it all in the same script. That's the way I opted to do it here, which is probably not the best way to handle this, but that'll be fine for what we're doing. I'm going to save that and then go back into Unity, and I want to file build settings and add in my car selection right there. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So that's just setting it up. And let's go to our main menu. Oh, you know what? We don't have that. Well, let's go. Yeah, let's go to our main menu. We'll set up this on our scene manager. Our play button. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our track select button. I know that's a little unfortunate, but we don't really need that here. So I'm going to go to canvas, track select, and I'm just going to turn this off right there. And maybe drag my play button down some. It's like right here. That's just where I like to put it, so it's sort of aligned there. And I want my play button, what does it call? Track 01. Let's have it go to, let's open up our scene manager script again. So let's build a method for this. Public void car select right here, and we'll call scene manager dot load scene and 1. Yeah, just so we have it all done. I might still do it differently elsewhere. And I'll explain why when we get to that point. So on that button, on that play button, change the on-click event to screen manager to, where is car select? There it is right there. And I just want to go ahead and save that and confirm that that's what this is doing. Press play. Did I not put wind zone in here? I need to put a wind zone in this. Okay, yep, that takes us to our car selection scene. Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and start setting this one up. In this scene, the car selection scene. Sorry, I keep on saying screen. You're going to basically have a garage built out, and I'll do that at the very end of the video. And then you're going to have a car sitting in here, and it's actually going to be multiple cars that are, you're going to turn off them as a child of a game object using the script. So the script is going to be a little bit, it's going to be pretty big, but I'm going to contain it all within this one straightforward script. So let's go ahead and set up our objects here first, and then we can go back in and at the very end add our building, add some lighting and stuff. So I'm going to add a new empty, and I will call it car selection manager. Oops. All right. And I'm going to go to my scripts folder. I could just hit add component now, but I don't want to do that. I like to have it all nicely organized this way. And add a new script, C# script called, and I'll call it the same car manager. I'll just call it car manager. That works for me. And make sure the names match here in the inspector. Let's go to car selection manager, add a car manager script. Perfect. So that is on this top object. Let me go ahead and take a few cars. So in the Polygon Street Racer, you have a prefabs folder, vehicles, presets, and then you have a few cars. I would suggest for now just grab maybe 4 or 5 cars. Don't go crazy with this for now. So I'm going to drag them in, but I'm going to drag them in as a child of the car selection manager. Zoom in here. Where's my camera? Wow. I think my car selection manager, oh yeah, the position on that, I just created it, so I need to zero that out. 0, 0, 0. Okay. And let's go ahead and just move the camera to a more appropriate place. I'd rather just move the camera at this point than trying to fool around with the car. Sort of get it somewhere where I'm looking. I'm going to rotate here, maybe drag it up some, and come in closer. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I might even do what we did in our finish race and have a camera that rotates around whenever this is done. So let's grab a few more cars and just drag them in as children of this car selection manager. And I don't need to turn anything off. I'm sticking with cars because I don't want to really bother with a person animation right now. And I'll just grab a 5th one. There you go. So we have a bunch of different cars. They're all sort of stacked up on each other. All right, so on our car selection manager, let me open up that script. So the first thing is that we're going to hold all of these cars in an array because we have multiple things of the same type. Might as well just put them in an array, but we're going to do this with the script. Instead of trying to put an array here and drag these in, I'm just going to do it via scripting. And it's pretty easy to do. So inside of here, the first thing I need is a variable, public. And these are game objects, array, an array of game objects, and I'm just going to call it car array. And I'm going to go ahead and delete the boilerplate here. And the way that I can just put these inside of the an array manually is, let's do it on the start. So I'm going to make this a private void start. Because we don't need this to be seen elsewhere. We could just say void start, that's fine too, but I'm just going to say private for the sake of, you know, reducing the demands on our game. Because our game is starting to get a little bulky. Not too crazy, but it's starting to get there, especially with our lighting. So we can force this to be our car array to basically go ahead and when the game starts, force that list of game objects into an array. And it's pretty simple. Since this is on our car selection manager, and this is a game object, we're going to say take the new game object array. And what's inside the array is on our transform, it's .child count. So take all of the children on this car selection manager and force it into a game object array. That's what that line does. It's pretty easy to do that. Last year you did a animal feeder game where the animals were coming from the top of the screen. We prefabbed them and then we drug them into an array. This would have been another solution for automatically placing them there if we placed them underneath a object inside of the hierarchy. We didn't want to do that last year because we wanted to spawn them from our project area. So that's why we didn't choose to do this. And these already exist in the world. We're going to keep them in the world and just turn them off. So that's why we wouldn't have done that last year. But that works. So even though we have them all inside of an array, we don't have an index number. So we want to be able to call them by index number. So I'm going to go below. And we're going to do a for loop. So for, so we're going to say for each one of these, well, for each, so we're going to put integer of I equals 0. So we want to start off at an array value of 0. Now please note, I need to zoom in by the way, so you can see. This is not a comma. And last year when a lot of you guys did this for loop stuff with me, towards the end of the first semester, commas were a problem for you. So it's going to have 3 arguments. This is the number we want to start with, which is an integer called I. Then we want to say how long do we keep repeating this process? How long do we want to do this thing, which is applying the number to it. And we want this to happen as long as I, as long as I is less than the transform, dot child count. So do this until we've got all of the children accounted for, and then semicolon. And each time we repeat this loop, so I we'll go up by 1, and yeah. So let me read this back to you. So as long as I is less than the number of children, we're going to start off at 0 and we're going to add 1. That's essentially what this is saying. And we're just going to give it our car array I is equal to transform dot get child. Another array. No argument, sorry. Of I dot game object, semicolon. So what this line here does is it takes whatever index value we're at and it's applying that index number to that child. So take the transform, get its child at that index number, the game object at that index number, and give it its appropriate index number. So, and it will keep doing that until it finishes that. That's what the for part does. So it moves its way down. I hope the ideas make sense to you of what it's doing. It's building an array for us. That's what this whole part here is. We also want to make it so that whenever the game starts, that it's going to turn off all of our objects. So we don't want any of them on. Now we could say, go ahead and have the 0, 1 on or whatever like that. We're going to force it to turn on 1 in just a second. But let's, inside of the start, we're going to do a for each loop. So for each game object, so what it is, and then we got to give it a variable name for each car in the array, and the array's name was car array. We wanted to tell it to set it active. So the car dot set active is false. There you go. So when the game starts, it would, right now it's going to apply an index number. It's going to put them all in an array, then give them an index number, and then turn them off. So I saved that. I just want to test it out. So what should happen is they should all just turn off. Oh, did I press play? I did not. Or is it trying to play? There it is. Yep. Perfect. And you get this don't destroy and load. Because it's saving these variables for us. So tells us that we might be able to do what's going to happen is we're eventually going to do a player's preferences to keep this number saved, which is kind of nice. But it turns them all off. That works exactly the way we wanted it to. And I guess I should show you this too. If we press play, it's already going through the process of putting them in an array and then assigning them their element index value and then turning them off. So all of that's working. We have 5 cars in our array. Perfect. Now note, if this was our main car, anything that was a child of it would also be turned off. So if we had a camera attached to this car selection manager, it would turn it off too. It doesn't differentiate between the actual cars. It thinks everything below here is a car. So that will play a factor in how we put it in our main levels. But I'll explain that when we get there. So let's open up our script again. What do we want to do next? Oh, yeah, we need to turn one on. So let's turn on our 0 one. I'm going to go press return in the start. So when the game starts, let's turn on the first one. So let's check and see if we have so if car array, and let's just say if there is a 0 value, we do an if check to make sure we don't get like a crash, a null return. We want to make sure that we get something. But if there is 0, which there should be, but if we accidentally delete these and that this level were to start with these accidentally being turned off, this will prevent us from crashing our game. Gonna press return. If there is, and let's just tell it to car array value 0 dot set active to be true. So this will turn 0 on when the game starts. Let's just do that real quick. And I might just type in some notes for you, and some comments, which would be really helpful. Did I press play? I keep down. Oh, there you go. And it turns our first one on for us, like that. Sweet. So that's all nice and good, but we don't have any functionality now that allows us to switch between the different ones. So let's add that in next. So let's go ahead and set up some user interface elements so that we can make some methods that will control them whenever we want to switch back and forth. So the idea is that with a canvas over a screen, we'll have a button on the left-hand side and a right-hand side, and then we'll also have a select button. Let me move my camera down up a little bit more actually, or down, so that my select button will fit nicely at the bottom. I like it there. So let me save, Command S, and add a UI button text mesh pro. And I'll snap into 2D in my scene view. Double click on my canvas so I can see the whole thing. So this button, I think we have some other options. I just want to look really quick. I didn't actually think about that leading to this, but we add in some under textures. I thought, where was that package we downloaded? Under UI, Area 730 Racing UI, sliced PNGs. I don't know if there were any arrow keys in here. Oh, there were. I don't know if I like them, but I think we'll just use them. No, I don't want to use these. I don't really like these. so I'll just stick with these. Sorry about that little tangent there. So this button here will be our back button, and you know what, for now I'm not going to spend the time to edit all this. You know how to edit this down and make it look nice. Let's just get to the functionality part of it. So under text here, not left, back. Oops. I will go ahead and scale it down some. I'll just scale it down to 0.5, half its size. 0.5, 0.5. Maybe 0.75. That looks more reasonable to me. So it's not as big. I want to anchor it to the bottom left holding Option here. Great. And I might move it up just a little bit. Right about there. I will Command D duplicate and anchor this one holding Option in the other corner and move it up. That looks about right. I don't have to guess. I should just look at my Y position, right? 33. So it'd be a Y position of 33. And name this next. And in the text, put next. And once again, you guys can play with your options here. You know, changing the background of this and the color and so forth. Let me go ahead. I will just go ahead and change the font though, since I did it once. And let me go ahead and duplicate this one more time. Command D. And I want to anchor this in the center bottom. Holding Option down, click here. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to name this button the Select button, and changing the text child to say Select. There you go. Okay, so we have UI set up. Let me save this. And we're going to actually do all of the UI work here inside of the script that we currently have. So going back into my car manager script, let's go ahead and set up a method. So let's go ahead and set up a method to be associated with our back button. So we'll make this a public void. So this is below. Actually, I accidentally put it in my start. I need to zoom out. Let's get rid of that. That does not belong there. There you go. Get outside of that start. A new method. So public void, and we'll call this back. Open close argument, press return, and open up those brackets for our method. So let's think through what we need to do. We need to turn off a car first. So unlike with main cameras, we want to always have a camera on. But for this, I'd rather not have the two models actually be in the same frame together. I would want to turn one off first. So let's turn off. Don't type this out. This is just me thinking through. Turn off the current model. And then when we go back, reduce the index by 1. And then if we go below 0, because that's a thing we can do. So if our index is 0, we want to then, let's move to the end of the array. And then finally, turn back on. Turn on the new model. So turning off, going backwards by 1, making sure that we haven't gone too far, and then turning it back on. Okay, so turning off the current model is pretty straightforward. It's going to be car array, and whatever index we currently have, and dot, oh wait, did I ever call index specifically? I don't think I did. I think I need to hold that index number up here. I forgot to do that. So let's go up here to public, or private. We don't need that to be private, and that's an integer called index. There you go. So here you go. I forgot to make this into a variable. So it's going to say our index. So yeah, so let's take our car index here and set active to be false. We're turning this one off wherever we're at. Okay. Then let's reduce it by 1. So I'm thinking, so there's a couple ways to do this, right? So index, we can do minus minus. That was one to do it. We could do it the way we typically do it is minus equals 1. And then we could just say my index equals index minus 1. But I just like to simplify a little bit. So like minus equals 1 is the way I'd like to do that. And then let's check and see if we ever go below 0. So a conditional if open argument index is ever less than 0, then open up an argument. Then let's go back to the end of our list. Index is going to be equal to car array dot length, which is the end of our list, minus 1. So it sets back to that last position. And then finally, let's turn on the car array index, our new one, because our index has changed, dot set active equals true. So we've turned it off, took away 1 from our index, and then turned it back on. So let's save that. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I'm not sure what that is. But we'll see. I think I got it right. Going into this video, I wasn't as confident in doing this, and it took me a day or two to kind of think through what I wanted, how I wanted to set this up. So I'm feeling better about it though. So car selection manager, that's set up. Let's go to our back button, and on its on-click event, we hit plus. Drag in the car selection manager because that's where our script is, and then go to the specific method car manager dot back. All right, let me save what I have and press play. Okay, back. There we go. It's working. It's allowing me to rotate through my cars. So we just need to do the opposite for our other method, our forward method, or next method. So public void back. By the way, I want to show you this. If you get a long list of stuff here and you ever want to close it up, you should have the option, if you hover right on the outside of your brackets, you can hit minus to close that up a little bit. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to copy this, even though it's going to be somewhat different. There's going to be some changes. I'm going to, outside of it, and instead of back, I'm going to call it next. And the top line is going to be the same. We want to turn off our current model, but instead we're going to do it plus equals 1. And if the index ever goes above the car array length, so kind of like this line here, we're almost like going to switch these two lines. We'll say if it ever, you're checking to see if it's ever equal to, oh, yeah, we do plus equals 1 or plus plus or whatever. Sorry, I was trying to think about different ways to do this. Let me so turn off the chromometer, increase the index by 1. If we go past the last car and move to the beginning of the array. So if we ever go car array dot length. Then we'll take our index and set it to 0. So remember, 1 equal signs is set to, and then turn back on the model. And that should work. It's pretty straightforward. I think it looks good. Let me save, Command S, and go back into Unity. I need to assign that method to my next button. Plus, and drag in my car selection manager. Go to the car manager script and the next method. Press play. I should have saved first, but next. There you go. Working nicely. Great. Okay. So the last part is a little finicky, is adding it so that we confirm and save our. So we want this select button to do two things. We want it to move us to the track selection scene. We also want it to save the current index value of the car that we have selected. So instead of me holding this select button in our scene manager script to like go to the next scene, like put in a method there, I'm just going to contain it inside of this car selection manager button, just to simplify what we're trying to do. There's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm trying to go with the simplest and most useful version of this. So in our car manager script, I'm going to close this up just a little bit. So I'm going to make a public void select button. Open close argument, like that. First thing I want to do is before I change, so I want to save the index value, and then on the next one I want to move to the next scene. So to save our index value, we've done this before, but we're going to call our player preferences, and we're going to save that value on a, I don't want to say script, but on a document outside of Unity or outside of this game itself, and then reference it elsewhere. So player preferences dot set int, open it up, give it a string name. We need to save the name of this, and we'll call car, I don't know, car index, something pretty simple. And then comma, what is it? It's going to be our index value here. Pretty straightforward. And we'll go ahead and change our scene now. Do we want this to show up? You know what? Just as a test. No. Yeah. Let's go ahead and just put it here. It says our car manager is going to be available in every scene that we are in with a car. We want to go ahead and just tell it to get the appropriate car from here instead of trying to do it elsewhere. So in your void start, if you double click on these arrows here, you can open it up again. At the very top, I'm going to say index is going to be equal to our players preferences dot get int, and the name we chose down here, which was car index, right here. Let's save that. Let me go down here and make sure I got the string name correct. Perfect. So that will work. And let's go ahead and make it move to the next scene so we can test all this out. So move to the next scene. Well, I need to reference scene manager at the very top, that namespace. So using Unity engine dot scene management. Oops. I hate whenever you mess up like one part and they have to spell the whole thing out. Going back down here to line 69. Scene. Oh, don't do this to me. Scene manager dot load scene, and we were doing it by array values. And what was that going to be? 0, 1, 2? I think it was 2. I think that is our track level. But before we move on, we need to fix one small problem. I need to say if, right now it's checking to see if, it's always going to make car 0 active right now based on this. And I want it to be, as long as there's an index number, as long as we get a number, then set it to the current value. That's creating some complications for us. So let me save this and see if that fixes anything for us. All right, so saved. And I went ahead and took my car selection manager and I went back into assets folder and I prefabbed it because I want to put this into the next scene just as a test. But let's make sure that our select button, so canvas, select button, and on its on-click trigger, put in your car selection manager and then choose your select button method. There. And let me go to the next scene. I'm doing this to test. You don't have to do this part here, but it's good to see to make sure it works. So if you want to test it, which I would encourage you to do, you should do this, but you don't have to do it. If mine works and you did exactly like me, it should work for you too. So track select screen, and I'm just going to drag in this prefab here. And currently my camera's not at 0, 0, 0. Where's this car at? I might want to move it up. So there it is. I'm going to move it over here. Maybe spin it around some so I can see which car is there. And save that. Go back to the other scene, car selection screen, and press play. All right, let me look. So, out of curiosity, it's got this number. Okay, so nothing else is turned on, which is good. And if I hit next, there you go. Okay, that is working well. I didn't notice earlier that it was not like turning things off. So right now the police car, which is element number 3, so index number 3. So hit select. Did it show up? Hey, there you go. And let me check to make sure. Sorry about the lighting issue. I don't think I baked the lights for the track select screen, which is something I need to do. And actually, I would encourage you to do that pretty soon. I love my car selection manager, and yeah, so it carried that information through. So what that means is, let me get rid of it on my track select screen. Car selection manager, control right click, delete, and save. And go ahead and bake the lights for this. I'm not going to do that now, but bake your lights for this scene. And let's go to track 01. And our car here has colliders, wheel hubs, but it has sky car. And sky car is all of the, what turns sky car off here? And let me drag in my prefabbed car selection manager here. Cannot restructure. So let me hit cancel. Go here. Open. Okay. So let me turn off the sky car. See if I can do it this way. Can I drag this in? Yes. Sweet. Car selection manager's here. And let's test this out. Go back out. So my car looks like a hot mess of vehicles, but scenes. Let's start from our main menu. Save this. If I press play, yeah, I really need to go through and bake all the lights. I'm starting to see like flashing. It shouldn't be a big issue. main game. So play should take me to this one. Let's go to next. Yeah, the lights are kind of dark in this scene. Hit select, choose a track, and there you go, I have my first car. Dude, that worked out pretty well. Let me go check and see, where's my car at? Yep, only the first car is showing up. Perfect. So hopefully this works well for you. My suggestions are we go back through, bake your lightings, and work on your car selection scene. I think it'll look really cool if it were something like a garage using the low poly racer stuff, and play with the lighting in there just a little bit. And I'm going to go bake my lighting and do the same thing, and also work on cleaning up my UI, make it a little bit more legible. Hey, before you get too far into this, I realized something that would be a nice feature to add into here. So I've put a shed in here. I filled it up with a few random things from the Street Racer package. What I wanted to do was to also make sure that we have a name and do a little more UI work before we moved on too far. I kind of rushed through that. So here in your car selection scene, I forgot to scale with screen size. Please do that. I sometimes forget it too. I have to go back and fix that. And we want to go ahead and have a at the very top, I'm going to add a TextMesh Pro object anchored to the top center to identify that this is, so hold an option down, that this is our, move this over here, snap to 2D, choose my canvas, and call this text object car selection, and change the text to say the same thing, car selection. And I am, of course, going to change my font and auto size that. I think that's too small, obviously. Move it down just a little bit. And on this object, just make it larger overall. And change my center to that. All right, that looks a little bit better. And once again, we can play with that some more to get a better visual effect out of that. Yeah, that looks good. But the thing I really wanted to do was whenever you moved your car left and right, to have like a name for the car show up. And we could also like put up some fake information as another text option here, but I want to go something that's a little bit more elegant. So just the name that we come up with. So I'm going to make a new child of the canvas, another text object, UI, TextMesh Pro. Sort of set it up right below here and do the same thing where we auto size it, center, and center, and we're just going to put car name here, change my font, and let me anchor this to the center, so hold option, anchor that to the center, but lift it up some, so that looks pretty good. All right, and name this this text object to car name, like that. Okay, so in our script that we were just in, it's not an elegant solution, but we can do this in an update to always just check when we move instead of relying on the buttons to do it. It's a little more expensive. Yeah, I'm just going to simplify and do it a little less effective at the feature than I should, but I'm going to include it down here. So I'm going to go public void update, open argument here. Honestly, it could be a private void update. Let's just do private void. And I'm going to do a series of if statements. If the index is equals to 0, then open argument. We want to say a specific name. So I'm going to go up here to the top. We are going to be using TextMesh Pro, and we're going to display this text somewhere. So using TM Pro, semicolon, and for me, end of line 11, I would make this a public TextMesh Pro UGUI, and I'll just call it car name. So going back down here to my update, if index value is 0, then car name dot text lowercase t should be equal to open argument, open string, and I'm going to save it just 1 second. It's going to give us an error, but so I went onto my car selection manager and I set the other cars inactive except for the first one, so the one that's set to 0, and I'm just going to come up with a name for it. So I'm going to call this one, it's called Sedan preset 3. Let me just call it, I don't know, Hot Wheels. Yeah. I'm not being particularly creative with the names here. And then let's do the same thing. Let's keep moving through. Index equals 1. Open an argument here. And I can just sort of keep copying this, work my way down. So the next one for me was turning this one off, turning this one on. Oh, it's like a Dodge Challenger. If you actually take the time to look up what they're supposed to look like, you're more than welcome to do so. But my knowledge of cars is somewhat limited. I know some stuff, but I'm definitely no expert. 2, and keep working my way through. It's a hatchback with tiger stripes. I'll just call it Tiger Lily or something. I don't know. Is that the lady? That's the from Peter Pan. Yeah, my references are way off. What's the next one? Oh, police cruiser. And what's the last one? We'll go ahead and look right now. The last one is a, we'll just call it a off-road. Yeah. So police cruiser, I'm going to turn the rest of these back on. So police cruiser, and that's supposed to be index number 4, and index number 5, off-road Jeep. It's not really a Jeep, but so that should be good. Let me save this and go back into Unity. No errors here. Now our car selection manager does need us to assign this variable. We need to initialize it. So let's find our car name, TextMesh Pro UGUI, put it there, and save again. I press play, and let's see if it does what we want it to do. There you go, Challenger, Tiger Lily. Ooh, did I get off? Did I forget to change the name on something here? Let's go check. Oh, 3 was supposed to be police cruiser. There's my mistake. and then off-road Jeep. Yeah, I was thinking like, oh, I didn't have 6 cars in here, but I didn't do anything with it. Save that. And press play again. Okay, Challenger, Tiger Lily, Police Cruiser, Off-Road Jeep. Cool. So yeah, that's just a nice little bit of functionality here that is worth doing. I think one more thing is worth doing is maybe having a back button to your main menu, but I don't think it's something worth stressing about. This video's already gotten long enough. In our next video, I want to show you, like I stole some lighting from another scene. Let's just try to fix some of our lighting issues and work on maybe a currency system so we can unlock some cars before you build out your third scene. And we're going to add a few features that you asked for, including the turbo pad and maybe work on drifting a little bit, but I can't promise that. We'll keep working on that for you, but I'll see you in the next video.